Hey, I had slight technical difficulties. If y'all can't hear me, let me know. But hey, and welcome to the first day of December, which is also the first day of Vlogmas. This is something new that I am doing this year. In case you're not familiar, Vlogmas is where people on YouTube upload a new video every day for the month of December up until Christmas Day. Preparing pre-recorded videos is really a lot of work. I didn't want to do that much work, so I decided for my version of Vlogmas, I would go live here on my YouTube channel for the first 25 days of the month. And today is the first day, and this is that first live stream. These will probably be shorter, or at least that's my hope. So thank y'all for coming to hang out with me. I hope this is a nice little diversion in your day. Um, so what are we going to be talking about today? Mexico, moving to Mexico just got more expensive. If you are looking to get out of the US and you were holding on to the idea of Mexico being this super duper cheap place, you might want to rethink that. Just like pretty much every other place in the world, things are getting more expensive. Um, Okay. So, uh, but before we jump into that, in case by chance the algorithm has served you this video and you are new to the channel and you have no idea who I am or what's going on, let me go ahead and introduce myself. Um, my name is Adelia Borishade. Although most people know me as Picky Girl Travels the World, I left the United States 7 years ago, a little bit over 7 years actually. um, 7.5 years, to follow my dream of immersing myself in different cultures. And on this channel, I share what I hope is educational and then it's inspirational content that's meant to help empower women to go after the life of their dreams, which is what I did when I left the US 7 years ago. And so that means that on this channel, I share about my life abroad. I share about my experiences traveling solo, as well as how to take control of your finances. Because no matter what you've been told, money does buy happiness. So those are all things we discuss on this channel. If you want to keep this videos like this showing up in your feed, be sure to like it, share it with somebody else who you think will benefit, or subscribe. I am really trying to hit 20,000 subscribers before the end of the year. And we're a few hundred away. So if you enjoy this, please consider subscribing. All right, y'all. So let's get to it. Hey, everybody that's here. Roxanne is in Ecuador. Okay, hey y'all. Yes, this is our premiere Vlogmas. We'll see how I do as we go further along. Okay, so like I mentioned to y'all, tomorrow's price is not today's price when it comes to Mexico. It was published today that they would be increasing the minimum wage here in Mexico. And when we talk about minimum wage, we know, like in the United States, it's not a lot of money. It's even less money here. This year, 2022, the Mexican minimum wage was 207 pesos per day. Depending on the exchange rate, that was somewhere around 10, 11, maybe $12 a day. Okay. What does this have to do with anything? Well, if you're considering moving to Mexico and getting residency, this is directly connected. To get residency here, and when I say residency, I am referring to the legal right to be in the country, to live here, to come and go kind of as you please. In order to get that, there are a couple of ways you can do it. you could get a job, although that is difficult to do, just like it is in the United States, because people want to save jobs for locals. And that means there is only a select number of companies that can hire foreign workers. They can only hire a certain percentage of their employees be foreigners. There's a whole process. So most people who move to Mexico are not moving here for a job because one, it's hard to get. And two, I just told y'all, the minimum wage here is low. So, most people who get residency here in Mexico do it through financial solvency. Basically, you prove that you've got enough money to support yourself, either through you already have a job, you have your own business, you're retired, you've got some means of income or savings to live off of. Again, Mexico is not alone in doing this. This is very common. Now, what does the increase in the minimum wage have to do with this? Well, they announced today that the minimum wage would go up about 20% from 207 pesos to about 249 pesos per day. Wages are actually higher in the border zone, but that's not the number that's used when you try to get residency based on financial solvency. And that's why this matters. In order to qualify for residency in Mexico, the different consulates use a multiplier of basically, like if you want temporary residency, you have to show a monthly income of 300 times the minimum daily wage here. So that would be if I wanted to get residency right now, I would need to prove that I had monthly income of 300 times the 207 pesos and then convert that into dollars. If you want permanent residency, you have to prove that you have 500 times the amount of the daily minimum wage. So if the daily minimum wage is going to bump up 20% come January 1st, that tells you the amount of money you need to qualify for residency in Mexico is probably going to go up around 20% as well. Sorry, y'all. I guess that's the risk of doing this live. Sorry about that sneeze. Okay. So, like how different is that? Well, here's where it gets more complicated. Okay. So you can get residency in Mexico by having, let's say, temporary residency, because unless you are retired, it's going to be hard for you to get permanent, even if you've got the money. But let's say you're applying for temporary residency. You can do it either by monthly income or by savings. So if you make 300 times the Mexican minimum wage, uh, if you've got that kind of income, or 5,000 times the Mexican minimum wage in savings, you can qualify for residency. Now, what like a 20% jump in the amount is a lot, because I know there are a lot of people who are like, but hold on, isn't Mexico a cheap place to live? You mean to tell me I have to have an income of multiple thousands of dollars in order to live there? The amount of money you need to qualify for residency and the amount of money you need to actually live, those are two totally separate things. Okay. And think about it from the government's perspective. They want people who have beyond enough money to move here. They don't want people who are going to be like on the border between being destitute and being okay. So there's that part of it. But then the other part is the less predictable part, which is the exchange rate and the impact of that. For a long time, we knew we those of us from the United States kind of had this expectation that the exchange rate would be 20 Mexican pesos to one US dollar. And for a long time, that's what it was. But here on December 1st, 2022, that is not the case. Um, that is not the case at all. And so I looked this up. Okay, so for this past year, 2022. Now, when I first moved to Mexico in 2017, um, there were times when the exchange rate was actually better than 20 to 1. There were times when it was 21, 22 to 1. But for 2022, the best exchange rate, if you had dollars, the best rate we got was about 19 and a half, 19.49. That was the market rate. When you actually exchange your money, you might not have gotten that rate. That was the best rate if you had dollars for this past year. But it actually got down to be about 15.9, 16. That's how low it got. So if you think about it in terms of qualifying for residency, the amount of money you need to qualify is going up by 20%. But also, the dollar is weaker against the peso than it has been in recent years. And so that's going to impact how much you need. So I use the calculator to do the math because those of you who know me know math is not my ministry, and I should never be trusted to do math in my head. So I looked it up. If you were to go by this new number of using the new minimum wage, which is about 249 pesos per day. If you were to multiply that out and you were to use the best exchange rate we've had in 2022, which was 19.49, that means you would need a monthly income of $3,830. And I know you're hearing that number and you're thinking, do I need to have almost 4 grand a month to live in Mexico? Absolutely not. But to get residency here, you do. The Mexican government wants you to have that much money. Now, if we flip it and we were to do the same math and use the worst exchange rate, because there are people who are predicting that the dollar will continue to decrease in value against the peso, or the peso will continue to strengthen, however you look at it. But let's say we used the worst official rate was 16.6, 16.68. If we were to use that, the new amount of money you would have to make in a month in order to qualify for residency would be $4,475. So you can see how this could be a little concerning if you are considering Mexico and maybe you had kind of been on the fence about when you were going to apply for residency. Um, I see Shauna said, I'm so happy I already attained residency since my income has decreased. Yes, it is December 1st. If you can get a appointment at a consulate to, like, if you've been on the fence about it, if you can get an appointment at a consulate to get have an appointment uh, for residency, I would do that. A lot of the consulates release appointments at the beginning of the month. Because once you get approved for residency in whatever, because you don't apply in Mexico, you have to be outside of Mexico when you start the process. And once you get approved, you have 6 months before you have to come here and finalize. So if you can find a consulate appointment sometime this month, I would jump on that, especially if you're concerned about whether or not you have enough income. Because not only do we have the increase in the Mexican minimum wage to deal with, and a I don't know if we would call it volatile, but the fluctuations we're seeing in the exchange rate of dollars to pesos. Not only are you dealing with that, another level to this is this should be a simple math calculation, yet different consulates have different amounts of money that you have to qualify with in order to get residency. So, if you are somebody who's thinking maybe my income or my savings might not be enough, if you can jump on this now, that would be for the better. And let's talk about savings. I mentioned that let's say you're trying to qualify for temporary residency. You would need 5,000 times the daily minimum wage here in savings. At the best rate we've had this year, that would mean that you would need about 1.2 million pesos in savings, which would roughly be about $63,840, give or take. That's at the dollar being the strongest it has been this entire year. But if we use the weakest rate for the dollar, instead of $63,800 to qualify in savings, you would need $74,591. So you can see that the exchange rate can play a big, big role in that. Okay, there was somebody who made a comment. Okay. Do you have to have the income during the application process, or do you have to meet the income requirements each year that you renew your temporary residency? It is generally a one-time qualifier, unless you happen to let things expire. Every consulate does their own thing. So one consulate may tell you that you need to show 12 months of statements, and they may be looking for a single deposit of a magic number, or they might be looking for the balance. It will vary. Some consulates only want six months. It just depends. And that my biggest piece of advice, if because this the point of this conversation was not to frighten or alarm you, but rather to inform you. So if hearing this has you thinking like, I don't know if my money is going to be right and I'll be able to apply, I would strongly suggest consulate shopping. If you live like I got my residency years ago. I lived in, well, I didn't live in Houston, but that's where I'm from. I'm a resident of the state of Texas. That doesn't mean I have to go to one of the consulates in Texas. Does not mean that. Actually, I got my residency from the consulate in New Orleans, Louisiana, because I didn't like the answer I got from the lady in Houston. So I made a different appointment and I went to Louisiana and I got residency. So shopping around at the different consulates, finding out what are their requirements, and seeing which ones will work best for you. There are a few consulates that do require you live in that specific area, but that is not the majority of them. That is not the majority of them. Okay. I am working full time, 80 hours every other week. Can I use my work income? Do I have to stay in the country a certain amount of time to get residency? You do not have to stay in the country a certain amount of time to get residency. It's one of the things I love about getting Mexican residency and why I often suggest it to people. Mexico has no requirements for a minimum stay in the country. Now, as far as using your income from your current job, that is going to depend on the consulate that you apply at. Because when I tell y'all, see, this is something that's hard for us as people from the United States to wrap our head around. This idea that these are all government offices enforcing the same policy, but they can enforce it radically different. That's foreign to us. But that is how things work when you deal with the Mexican government. So if you are considering getting residency in Mexico, start visiting the websites of the different consulates you're thinking about applying to. Maybe if you're in whatever online spaces with other people who have moved to Mexico, you might ask like, hey, what was your experience at this consulate? How good or bad was it? How much of a stickler were they? That's what you would ask. And again, We are talking about the increase in the Mexican minimum wage that goes into effect January 1st. And then there will be then you'll start to see a ripple across the different consulates as they update their financial requirements. Um, so yes, consulate shopping. Now, I saw this comment, Tia. It's expensive but worth it since it's a 4-year temporary residency. Okay, I posted on Instagram that I was going to be doing a live stream every day for Vlogmas, and somebody asked me somebody asked about the regularization program, and so I will speak to that as much as I can. I already had residency before that became a thing. Okay, so let's say you were like this year to 2022 from 2021, the amount of money you needed to qualify for residency jumped up substantially. And a lot of people were like, I don't have it. I don't have it. Mexico was still running a program that was kind of a leftover from the pandemic called regularization. It was really designed for people who had gotten stuck here when, borders were closed, and gave them a kind of a pathway to get their, because they were here on expired tourist visas or whatever, to give them a way to regularize their process. I know in the United States, we like to call folks illegal. We don't do that in Mexico. You are irregular. And so this program has morphed over the last few years, but the general idea is if you have an expired tourist visa currently when you apply, and you have stamps in your passport that show that you had been in the country prior, they gave you the opportunity to apply for temporary residency without the financial qualifications. And before you get super duper excited about this, don't. Because just like the consulates all over the world do things differently, every immigration office in this country, some of them don't even honor or offer regularization. They all have different rules about how long must your permit have been expired, how many entries did you have to have, what year did those entries needed to be in. um, that all varies. So I would not look at regularization as my backup, because it was meant to be a short-term program in place during the height of the pandemic. And nearly every week they're talking about, we're not going to do this anymore. So maybe if you are currently in Mexico and you are currently on an expired tourist visa, that might be an option for you. But I would not count it as a backup option moving forward. I just wanted to share that because I did have somebody ask a question about regularization. I know some people who got, because here's the other difference. Going through the process that I mentioned to you before, where you apply outside of Mexico, you get your residency for 1 year and then you renew it for up to 3 more. With regularization, they give you the 4 years all up front. And I know a couple of people who got their Mexican residency that way. That was at least a year or two ago that they did that. I don't know anybody who's currently applying through that process. But again, every immigration office in Mexico is different. Okay, not before 10 helping us out. If you are shopping for a lower solvency number consulate, the Chicago consulate should not be on your list. Okay, that's good to know. That's good to know. All right. Yes, this is the case. When you get approved at a consulate outside of Mexico, then you have 6 months to come here to finalize the process, get your actual residency card, and then you pay for 1 year of residency. And then when that 1 year is up, you can renew it for another year, you can renew it for 2 years, or you can renew it for 3 years. Once you have had a total of 4 consecutive years of temporary residency, you can convert that to permanent residency. That is what I have. And I don't have to do anything. There are no rules about how long I got to be here. There are no rules about, having to renew anything. There's no expiration date on my card. I'm just forever a resident of Mexico as long as I choose to be. You know what? You right. I don't Y'all know time is made up. I don't know what year is it. It's 2022, 2023, whatever year it is, because it don't matter. It don't matter. Just know that January 1st, Mexico is raising its minimum wage, which is great because wages here are very, very low. But if you are looking to move to Mexico and get residency, that is going to change the amount of money you need in order to do that. So, um, I think we're done here today. If you found this useful, please give it a thumbs up. If you want to help me make my goal of hitting 20,000 subscribers by the end of the month and you're not subscribed, please subscribe. If you know somebody who is considering a move to Mexico, please share this video with them so that they can, make some informed choices. I hope to see y'all back here tomorrow at 2 p.m. Eastern for the second day of Vlogmas. Bye, guys.